to Just Energy Radio with Dr. Rita Louise.
Back to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for staying tuned to the second hour of the show. A few announcements. Just Energy Radio can be heard live on the Inception Radio Network. One of the things that's pretty exciting about being on Inception is that you can go and download the Inception app from the App Store, the Android App Store, or from the iTunes Store. And you can also listen live online at exceptionradionetwork.com. I just love little engineering issues. I thought I was done with all this engineering stuff. Anyway, but Just Energy Radio can also be heard on iTunes, on the Just Energy Radio channel. You can also go to the Just Energy Radio webpage. That's www.justenergyradio.com and listen to our archives. And a few other announcements starting January 3rd. It is a Thursday night. Just Energy Radio is moving to prime time, no more Friday afternoons. And we are very excited about that. And our first show will be joined by Denise, or we're going to be doing an astrology show talking about our year ahead. And so it's going to have Michelle Avanti back on talking about what's going on. Also, December 21st, 2012, just in case the world doesn't come to an end, we are doing a show. What were you doing while the world was coming to an end? We'd love for you to call in. We're opening up the phone lines, not necessarily doing readings on air, but I'll be speaking with John Michael Greer and finding out what you were doing. I mean, one of the things I believe about this whole 2012 thing is the level of fear, and I'm hoping, and I would like to get your feedback, that there might be a feeling of something's passed, a sense of relief that it's done and we're still here, kind of like the Y2K thing. Also, our new book, Man-Made Chronicles of Our Extraterrestrial Gods, available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. You can buy it from me directly at SoulHealer.com, where your book will be autographed by myself and Wayne La Liberty. You might even get fingerprints on it, some little good forensic measures. I probably shouldn't say that on air. Someone will pick it up just to have my fingerprints. That's kind of creepy. All right, don't do that if you want my fingerprints. And also, please do go to the Institute of Applied Energetics. That's www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com. And because you might be in a place right now where you're looking for a new career, and you can be studied to become a medical intuitive counselor, or energy medicine practitioner from the comfort of your own home. That is www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com. So this hour we're going to be speaking to John Cappello about his new book, Open the Mind, Exercise the Soul. So John Cappello is a psychic medium and visionary. While he has been working professionally in metaphysics since 1997, John has been interested in psychic ability and the study of existence beyond the physical since he was a child. Through the use of his psychic abilities, John can provide a detailed description of past, present, and potential future situations. As a medium, he is also able to bring forth loved ones who has crossed over. So his website is www.johncappello.com. Please welcome John Cappello. Hey, John, how's it going?
Hi, Rita. Hi, Dr. Rita. How are you?
I'm doing great. Well, I'm glad that you're here. I hate when we have these little engineering glitchy things that happen. It makes me kind of crazy.
I know. I understand. I'm sorry about that.
I know you do. Well, John, I have to tell you, I read your book, and I liked it, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I felt like it was a really good I hate kind of saying this, but like beginner book for people that are interested in like, well, what does that whole psychic thing mean? And what's that about? And how is it going to affect me? I feel like you really address a lot of answers for people that are just starting to open up or wondering what that whole phenomena is about.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to do. So I'm glad that you liked it. It's supposed to be for beginners. It's supposed to be for people that may want to use the book as a reference. So it is accomplishing what I wanted it to do. I wanted people to know what I go through because I think they can relate to it, and so it does answer a lot of questions about metaphysics, about different points of view that people have towards psychic ability, and it goes through the mechanics of each psychic sense. That's what I wanted to start out with, and what it does is it lays the foundation for for future books that I want to produce. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned, yeah. There are all different kinds of psychics, and, you work as a medium. But are all psychics mediums, or are there differences between having psychic abilities and being a medium?
Well, it would be very surprising that all psychics don't have some mediumship ability, because mediumship is about sensing a presence. And there's always an angel or there's a guide around us. But psychic ability generally is about looking at events and information that is specific to one person. Mediumship usually involves the energy of someone outside your personal space, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. But does it necessitate that you are connecting with a dead person?
No. It's about energy, and your show is just energy radio, so you address that all the time about how everything is just energy. And if you have, for instance, if you're in a very difficult relationship, then oftentimes the person that you're in that relationship with, their energy is very strong around you, and you can sense them. So that's usually how it works with me. I'll usually sense that there's a man around someone or a woman around someone that they're having some difficulties with, and they can be very much alive. What happens is that when someone is in spirit, it resonates a different frequency than that of a person that is crossed over. So
Could you explain that a little more? That's a very curious statement to me. I mean, how does it seem, from your perspective, how does it seem different?
Well, there's more power in the energy around someone that is alive. It's a more powerful energy. It's stronger. It's more easily recognizable than those that are crossed over. So at least it is for me, and that's all I can do is speak for myself. And hopefully other people can relate to that. But when people are in spirit, they will generally appear in certain positions around others, around a person that has come to see me. The males are usually on the right side, the women are usually on the left. Ancestors are usually kind of either on the right or left, but slightly above the shoulder. Angels and guides generally appear in the middle, above your head, and or they are sometimes huge. They can be bigger than life figures. That's how they appear. Now, children and animals often appear in front of another person, especially children that have crossed over. Sometimes they're not easily seen because they can be where the psychic is, or they can be even behind the psychic, and so you have to pay attention, and then also you have to recognize what kind of energy field is around your client, because the energy field can be very dense. It can be a field that will block someone who's trying to use their abilities, or use their energy to kind of pierce the energy of another person. I hope this makes sense. I don't know if it does or not.
It's making sense to me. I'm just, being quiet and listening.
So, there are times when people will come to me and they say no one can read me, and so I go, oh my goodness, oh yeah. Well, have you ever had anyone do that? But
I just say, well, yeah, but I'm a bitch and I'll look anyway. So well, and just kind of like talking shop talk. I have had people that have been challenging to read, and I do things like, I kind of look. Like take my energy and look behind their back, because they'll put these walls up in the front, but they don't put them behind their back. So I just kind of like change my vision in a weird kind of way to behind them and look at their energy back there. And it's like, I'm tricky.
Find them another way. That's what you do. Well, I have never done that. I've never gone behind a person to take a look at them. But I am able...
I don't physically go back there.
Oh, okay. Well, I
kind of remote view. You know how I do that? I just like move my perception to behind their back and look from back there. You should try it. It works really good.
Well, I haven't. Like I say, I will try that. But for me, when I notice or someone says no, I just kind of intensify my energy or my looking clairvoyantly. And recently I had a situation where a lady came in, and I started telling her things about her childhood, and she said yes. She says, but that's not why I'm here. And then I saw a grandmother come in, a great-grandmother, and I went ahead and I accurately described her, and then she still wasn't satisfied, and then I saw it. Then I saw that her son had died, and there he was, just where he was supposed to be, but because it was such an intense energy, because the grief was so intense, it was not easy to see, and I only saw him in a flash the first time. But once I get the frequency, or once I get the energy, I can look further. And so this young man had passed away in an accident, and so I started talking to her about the accident like I was there. And it was the first time that she had ever talked about the accident to anyone. And I told her about the grief, and I told her about the shroud of grief energy that was around her. And she later, after the reading, I could see there was something that had lifted from her. You could see it in her face. That grief that she had, that serious look on her face, which, she still was a serious lady and everything, but there was that sense that something good had happened here. And that makes my work very fulfilling, because to be able to validate what goes on with another person and validate what they are experiencing, and be able to talk intelligently about a situation I had no knowledge about whatsoever, but was able to clairvoyantly see to some degree what had exactly had happened, and I would say something, and she'd go, no, she'd clarify it a little bit, and I go, oh, okay, now I see it, and so it just keeps reliving itself. It's you've talked a little bit about residual energy, about that, so that's what the spirit will be showing me some of those things over and over again until I get it, and there was a lifting there. There was a lifting around her that helped her heal. So those are things that happen during readings with people.
Well, that's because spirits, they like to nag. That's my, it's like, no, tell them this. And if you don't tell them or the person doesn't receive it, they just keep saying it over, so that you can present it in a different way or change the angle or perspective till the person gets it, like their soul gets it, which I find very interesting. And, I find a very similar thing. And then it's like putting a key into a lock. It kind of unlocks something so that change can happen.
Yeah, you got to jiggle it a little bit sometime.
Exactly.
To get it to work, but once you unlock it, that's when the real healing occurs. And that's what the book is about. The book is to kind of, like I say, validate what other people are seeing and feeling and know about themselves, and try to explain it in terms that are not too flowery or too metaphysical. Just I didn't want the book to be out there. I want people to relate to it, and that's what's happening. It's starting to happen, and so I'm hoping the book will catch on. So
cool.
I'm thinking it will. I've been all over the country selling it.
Well, we need to talk about that. But anyway, one of the things that I'm curious about or would like for you to talk on is that many people believe that, we have to develop a psychic ability, that it's not something that we have. It's almost like, well, if I buy enough books, I'll end up being psychic. But, is that a true statement?
No.
Could you speak to that, please?
I think it takes some practice. It takes paying attention. But I have a little psychic test for you, and what psychic ability is the ability for the soul to capture energy beyond the limits of our physical senses. And with that being said, if someone walks up to you and gets too close to you, you can feel them, or you should be able to feel them. Have you ever had that experience? So
they don't even have to be near me, and I can feel me. It's like, somebody's like in my space. But we can put that out to the chat room. Has anybody had that experience where if somebody walks up to you, you feel their energy?
Well, the thing is that is the beginning of your psychic ability, and that's where it all starts. And if you have that sensation, or what that sensation looks or feels like, then you're already doing what I do, and because that's all that I really do is pay attention to what's going on in my personal space. So it starts as simple as that. And I'll tell you another thing is that when I was writing this, I started talking to people about it, and I found that other disciplines like martial arts teaches that you have to know who is coming into your personal space and who is making a move or who is going to go into a certain part of your personal space. In other words, you have to anticipate your opponent's blow. And you do that by using that energy that surrounds you, and they use it in a different way. They use it to learn how to strike another person or to win a battle. Whereas I have my own use. I use it as my own tool to find information or to get information. I hope that makes sense.
So in your experience in doing psychic work, have you ever had, these are people's kind of preconceived notions about what the psychic experience is like. That there's going to be like these bells and whistles. I remember when I was young, or when I thought about working as a medium, which I know now is working more on clairaudient levels, that I would hear things like Rita, and these things that are external that we're going to see or feel, or well, not feel, but hear on the physical plane. That. Do you know where I'm going with that?
Oh, the thing is, you say that mediumship is more clairaudience.
Well, I mean, that was my preconceived notion.
Well,
they would have people talking to them all the time, kind of like ghosts. Come on.
Well, but every psychic ability has a mediumship component to it. So when you see a ghost or you experience a visual experience of a ghost, that's your clairvoyance experiencing mediumship. If you feel a ghost or you feel an entity, that's your clairsentience kicking in, or that's that area's ability to tap into mediumship. If you just know a spirit is around you, then that's your intuition or your claircognizance at work. Of course, if they speak to you, then you know that's a clairaudient ability. Now, there are direct speaking. There's direct voice, if you want to call it that. There's other physical manifestations that mediumship can be attributed with our physical senses, because sometimes paranormal things allow themselves to be seen in the physical. They manifest that energy, which is, to me, another form of mediumship. I may be expanding the definition of mediumship, but I think it needs to be expanded to bring in the full range of our experience with those that are outside our personal space and who may not be in the actual physical, the tangible, that may not have a tangible body, physical body. So that's where I'm going with it. And by doing that, I think that I make the whole idea a lot more palatable for people, So I think it's a good thing that we start to look at these and try to understand a little bit more about what goes on with us. So that's what I'm trying to do, is get people to use their abilities and not be afraid of them, and use them to become validated. I think it's a healthier lifestyle. I had a lady come to me once, and I told her I was a psychic, and she immediately wanted to kind of make fun of me about that. And she said, but my daughter is already getting very psychic, and I've been trying to get her to stop. And I said, why? And she said, because I don't want people to make fun of her. I said, well, isn't it better that she get in touch with her feelings? And isn't it better that she get to know who she is? And isn't it better that she learn to trust her feelings and get to know that there is some validation and there's an importance to those sensations that she's receiving? And she said, I think you're right. And so she walked away a little bit kind of perplexed in her own mind, because she had her own psychic abilities and she had kind of stuffed them away. But psychic ability is something that we all have and we all need to acknowledge. If you've had something as little as a first impression, then you've had a psychic impression. And, our psychic senses are meant to be used in conjunction with our physical senses. And it's kind of a symphony between our physical and our psychic senses. Our psychic senses are extensions of our physical senses, and they exist whether or not the physical sense is there. And we ought to be able to, if you close your eyes, you still can use your clairvoyance. And clairvoyance is available during our dream state, during other events in our life. Sometimes things come as a flash, and that is a clairvoyant event. And sometimes they come as a symbol. Some people in some of my workshops say, well, I don't get that. I get symbols. That's okay. That's how it works with you. Get to know the symbols. Get to know how they work with you. And, sometimes people say, well, I get a flash in front of me, but I don't know what to do with it. And is that my clairvoyance? And I say, yes. And they say, well, it doesn't tell me anything. Well, then I say, well, then that's when you say, well, okay, this is the picture. How does it make me feel? What am I hearing about it? What do I know about it? What else is going on here? Because a lot of times a picture is just a picture, but it may impart a feeling, or it may impart something else to give you clues on how to interpret it. So all of that is psychic, and all of that is something that I think we all do on a regular basis, but we don't acknowledge it as being psychic. We pass it off as coincidence, or we pass it off as just using our logical mind. And it's not. It's not our logical mind. Now, our logical mind helps us interpret things, and many times our logical mind convinces us that what the psychic impressions we're receiving are not real. And many times we wind up getting in trouble about that. But it is good to use your logical mind when you get an impression. But it's also good to recognize that when your psychic senses are not in conjunction with your physical senses, that it's time for you to step back and analyze the situation. In other words, if you are going up to someone and you're shaking their hand and they appear to be a nice, well-dressed individual that you may very well want to do business with, but you get this icky feeling about them, then that's your psychic senses, that's your psychic feelings telling you to stop and maybe do some research and maybe do some more investigating before you go ahead and buy that bridge in the swampland.
Do you find that people that tend to be, I'm going to say successful, and I'm just going to put in business, that tend, are able to utilize their psychic abilities to help them with work?
Oh, absolutely. Those are the best psychics of all. Those are the people that trust they call it their intuition. They trust their gut. They believe in themselves. A lot of it is self-confidence. A lot of times when we lack self-confidence, that's what keeps us from being successful, a low self-esteem. But where do we get low self-esteem? We get it because other people don't validate us. And when we get validated, or we validate ourselves, and we see that we can trust ourselves, that's when we can move to the next level. And so you have to start a little bit at a time. You have to start with making sure that you are you are using your abilities wisely, and that they are giving you accurate information. But once you can tap into it, the sky is the limit. Now that doesn't mean you shouldn't use your logical mind, but usually your psychic abilities will put you in a position to where your logical mind can function very well. So, because you get that feeling you belong in a certain place, and once you feel you're in the right place, your logical mind can take over and operate very well in that environment.
Do we all, you've talked about these different gifts, these different psychic gifts. Do we all have the same gifts? And if we do they all manifest in the same way for each of us?
No. We all have the same gifts, but we all have a certain range and frequency of each of them, and we all have to learn how they work with each of us. So the way things work with me may not be the same way they work with you. The things that you were telling me earlier, I've never, I don't know how to look behind a person. But, it makes sense to you. And if it does, well, that's a good thing, because you've adapted and you've learned how to successfully use a particular part of your soul's energy to be able to interpret energy around another person. Okay? So there are some people that are strong in things like psychic smell or psychic taste. And, certain expressions we have, like that stinks, whenever there isn't anything around it that would indicate something would stink, may come from a psychic impression that people had over a situation, because they may have a physical smell, or they may have a smell around them when someone says something. And I've actually heard people say that. I get a smell around people when I think that they're lying to me, or they may get a bad taste in their mouth. The human experience is so vast and so incredible that there's so many options out there that we can't calculate all of them, because people don't talk about them. We've been taught not to talk about them. But even things like we can even look at animals. They say now that some dogs can smell cancer. How extraordinary is that? But there's probably people that can smell cancer too, that aren't saying anything about it, or just
never paid attention. We're never validated that way.
Exactly right. And that's why we need to pay attention. We need to give ourselves permission to look at ourselves in just a little bit different way. Now, you can take anything overboard. But I'm not suggesting that. I'm just suggesting that people pay attention to what's going on around them, and they'll live happier and even healthier lives. How many times have you heard someone that got very, very sick because they didn't pay attention to signs in their body that was telling them what to do, to go get help? Now, sometimes it doesn't always help. Now, there's a lot of silent killers out there, but there are many times when people just don't pay attention, or they just pass it off, or they want to push through, but something's telling them that something's wrong, and they just don't give in to it. And that's not good. And so these are things that you have to start to pay attention to. And I think our society is getting to the point to where there's a realization, and there's a new realization that it's important to not just use your physical senses, but to use your extended senses as well. And that's what the book is trying to get across to people. And I don't see a lot of other books out there. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of really good psychic development books out there, but I wanted to write one that was exclusively my own, and not be filtered by other people's work. And I know you've read a lot of other people's work, so hopefully you found this work to be original.
Well, I mean, I just really enjoyed the tone and the tenor. I don't know. What was interesting is that it had kind of even this meditative quality to your writing.
Oh, well, thank you.
I'll share that with you. So, yeah.
Well, I'm glad, because it should be a fairly easy read. It should be a read that everyone could understand. And it's not a book about judgment. It's a book about permission. And that's what I think a psychic development book should be.
Well, one of the things, I'm just trying to talk about some misconceptions that people have. One of the things that I hear from people a lot is, well, I think I have some abilities, but I have to open my chakras up. Which I'm not really sure how you quote unquote open your chakras up. But do you think that that's a more important goal, doing energy work on your chakras? Or do you think the concept you were just talking about paying attention, is by far more important path to take?
Well, you're opening a door that I think is good, because from my perspective, there are two genres of psychic work. One of them is about receiving psychic energy, and the other is sending psychic energy. My focus of my work is about the first one, the first genre, which is receiving psychic energy. Now, within that genre, you have two disciplines. You have two areas that you need to recognize. The first one is receiving energy without any provocation, without any stimulus whatsoever. The second one is being able to focus and meditate, and if you want to work on opening your chakras and be conscious about using your psychic ability, that's fine. But what happens is people get confused. They think that there's only one kind or one way to receive energy, and that is to meditate or open up chakras or to go through some rituals that teach them that they need to do in order to open up their psychic abilities. I say if you want to do that, that's fine, but don't forget that you are, when you're out in the public and you get a sensation around you, that is psychic, and it's something that you need to be aware of, and that's when you really need to pay attention. And the way that you develop the automatic or the instantaneous psychic abilities is to know yourself beforehand, and to know each within you the different psychic abilities are different inventories, if you want to call it that, inventories of feelings or inventories of pictures in your mind or inventory of phrases that you may hear. And once you're pretty much attuned to what goes on with you, then you can say to yourself, oh, I know what that feeling is. I know what that is. I know what that picture is, or I know what that phrase is. And you know that you're receiving that information from your soul's energy, and you're able to interpret it very quickly. Now, when you want to focus and you want to use your meditational skills and open up your chakras or do other exercises, then you can target your feelings. You can target a situation. You can ask guides to speak to you, or you can use other means in order to open up and allow energy to come to you, because you may be in a quiet place, or you may be in a place where you can fully devote all of your attention to developing your psychic abilities. But my emphasis is that you are that you need to be able to interpret things quickly. You see, and so I hope that answers your question.
Well, and I'm just going to throw in my little 2 cents. My feeling is, if you're not doing the paying attention part, you don't really get to understand what the experience is. And like you were saying, creating that inventory. I like calling it a library. I got a library of symbols and phrases and feelings. And the whole part about opening your chakras up, to me, that gets rid of the junk that the information and energy has to filter through. It helps you let go of your judgments, so you can talk to someone about something that, if it was you making the communication, would push every single button in your psyche, but you can still make the communication because for that person, it is for their highest good and has nothing to do with you. And I feel like that part, the chakra work is more, to me, in my opinion, about getting clear and receiving the information as clear as possible. Well,
yeah, you have to be. It's good to be clear, but it's like I say, if you want to take the time and meditate a certain amount of time every day and become clear and let go of worries and cares and judgment, that's a wonderful thing to do. But most times the psychic stuff that can save your life in an instant is something that's going to happen very quickly, and you've got to recognize it right then and there. If you want to take take for example something like 9/11. We haven't heard about people that may have had a bad feeling about going to work one day and didn't go. You know, those people may have recognized something was going to happen. They didn't know what it was, but they're I'm sure they're out there. You know, it's very curious that those two towers that were destroyed on 9/11/2001, they were not near at their capacity. They were very, from my understanding, they were like, I forget the percentage. Have you heard this before?
Vaguely, not in a really long time.
But that's what was my clue. My clue was that there were a lot of people that just didn't feel right about going to work today. And that catastrophe could have been 50,000 as opposed to a few thousand. And it's just because those people recognized something. And the people that did go, I'm not saying they had a psychic impression. They may not have, and God bless them. And I'm not criticizing them in any way, so please don't misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm just saying that there are times when we know to stay out of danger because our psychic abilities come to us instantaneously, and we say, I'm not going there. You see, and you know, this recent tragedy in Colorado with this young man was shooting people. There was a young lady who had a terrific argument with her boyfriend, who just did not want her to go. He did not want to go. He didn't go. She did go. She got shot. She lived, but she got shot, and he had not wanted her to go. Now, to me, from a psychic's point of view, you say, there was something psychic that went on there. But those are the kinds of things that happen that you have to kind of be aware of, and you got to say, okay, there's something going on here, and I need to recognize it, and so maybe I better just pass. Maybe I just better pass. And how many times have there's been times when something delayed you from leaving your house, and then you left a few minutes later, and lo and behold, if you had left a few minutes earlier, you might have been involved in an accident. Well, that's a psychic. There's something psychic about that. Something was there to protect you. It's just whether you call it your angels or whatever, but there's usually a psychic explanation for that. So it's just a matter of paying attention. So
why is it so hard for us to trust that information? I mean, I agree with you. I think we get that information all the time, but it's like we're brain dead or stupid or something that we don't listen to it, even though it's right there in front of our face.
Well, part of it is recognizing what is psychic and what is maybe paranoia or another emotion. If you're angry with someone, you naturally don't want to go see them. So the logical mind will come in and convince you otherwise. But it's usually something that happens sudden. It's usually something that's unexpected. Usually something that is maybe extraordinary or contrary to what your logical mind will say, and that's when you really have to kind of pay attention. Maybe I don't need to go to the store right now. Let me just wait an hour and see how I feel about it. Those sorts of things. So it's just a matter of just trying to pay attention at the correct time, because you do use your psychic or your extended senses with your physical senses, and it's important that they work together.
I'm just looking at the clock going, do I want to move on to another question? Yeah, I think I'm going to move on here. What about dreams? You talk about dreams in the book. I mean, not a whole lot, but it really kind of got me thinking, because I am not a dreamer. I mean, if I remember a dream, usually it's awful. So I just assume not remember those dreams, but I don't, I know I dream, I just don't recall. but are dreams a kind of a psychic experience also?
Oh, absolutely. And I equate dreams more with clairvoyance and other psychic senses, but there are a lot of people that say exactly what you do, what you just did, that they don't remember their dreams. And that's fine, but there are times when you may wake up in the morning and you may feel like you dreamt, or you felt like you had a certain experience, or you felt like you went somewhere, or you just knew that you went somewhere, or you may even hear voices saying goodbye, or see you tonight, or something like that. And so each of the psychic senses, or each of the extended senses, can be part of your memory of your dreams, not just your sight, not just the visual part. So the dreams are a matter of your soul doing therapy to itself, helping you gain perspective. And that's what psychic ability is. That's one of the reasons. That's one of the things, definitions of psychic ability from my perspective. Psychic ability, what does it do? Number one, it helps as an early warning system. Number two, it's used in conjunction with your physical senses to validate them. Psychic ability is about gaining perspective. And there's actually a fourth. A fourth is psychic ability allows you to create. Okay? So that inspiration you get is psychic. And with dreams are wonderful because that therapy that they help you undergo is amazing. For instance, if you ever dream that you're falling, you have that sensation of falling, and you have to say to yourself, well, how does that make me feel? What are the emotions that go on when we're in an uncontrolled fall? And one of those is I don't feel like I am in control in my life. My life is out of control. But by the same token, if you feel you're flying, then you feel like you are in control, and you have self-confidence, and you feel like you're soaring and that you're making progress in your life. Both of those dreams have you suspended in air, but one has you insecure, whereas the other has you confident. You see? So dreams are a lot about emotions, about what's going on with you. They're not necessarily, they don't have to always be visual after you have completed them, but it's important to recognize that when you wake up in the morning, what feelings you have or what other sensations you have that might be associated with a dream event the night before.
Can our dreams be, give us insights into someone else, or be precognitive, or have any of the psychic, give us insights into a different person? The different things that you would look for in a potentially psychic reading. I mean, can we get that kind of information from our dreams?
Absolutely, because they give us perspective. The perspective can be about a certain situation, a person, a new belief system that we need to consider. How many times have you? I guess I've done this a lot in my life, where I had to go to someone to say I was wrong. I have a new perspective, and that new perspective has been psychic. And a lot of times, using your intuition and sleeping is a good thing, because if you have ever had a problem, people say go sleep on it and see what you come up with. I mean, you could be pounding your head against the wall all day long on a particular problem and just not be able to come to a solution. And then you can take a nap, or take a walk, or walk away from a situation, get away from it, and then when you come back to it after all the stress is gone and after all of the emotions around a situation are gone, and then immediately come up with the answer. Have you ever done that?
Oh, definitely. It's kind of like you wait for that little thought bubble to show up and land on the top of your head and go, oh yeah. which is really cool.
It actually is feeling a thought drop into the top of your head. That's what intuition for me is, and that's what you would call claircognizance. A lot of people, in my viewpoint, misuse the term intuition, because intuition is really, for many people, an umbrella or a buzzword or a code word for psychic ability. But for me, intuition is more towards the claircognizance. And, a lot of people say women have women's intuition. Well, that kind of, to my viewpoint, limits what women can do, because women have all of the psychic abilities. They have them all. And if you use intuition as another word for psychic, then okay, because that would be a good umbrella term. But to just limit them to just one psychic sense is not good, I don't think. So, and that's the same way with saying, people have a sixth sense. Well, you don't have just one extra sense. All of your senses have an extension to them, and we have to look at psychic ability as extensions of all of the other sense of our physical senses. And so you have 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever extra extended senses, extra senses. And I'll even take it further than that. You have 3 types of senses. You have your physical senses, you have your extended senses, and then you have your remote senses. And your remote senses are when you have remote viewing or remote feelings or remote thoughts. We don't talk a lot about our remote senses because they're a lot more difficult to validate than information received by our extended senses.
Hey, John, the clock is winding down on us, and we need to wrap up. So if people want to get a copy of your book, Open the Mind, Exercise the Soul, where would be the best place for them to look for it?
Well, they can get it online at every major book-selling website, or they can go to their local Barnes & Noble, and if it's not on the shelf, they can demand it and or ask for it, and they can get it. They'll order it for them. They'll bring it in.
Well, okay. Well, John, we need to go. And thanks for coming on and sharing your insights and wisdom. I think everyone that's listening to the show today is feeling just a bit more psychic, I hope.
Okay, good.
And I would say I know I am. But
good.
Yeah. Anyway. All right, I will talk. And actually, you and I need to talk, but off air. Anyway, thanks for coming on. His book, Open the Mind, Exercise the Soul. John's webpage is www.johncappello.com. And next week, we are going to be speaking with Maria Wheatley about the ancient standing stones of Europe, and Robert Feather in the second hour about the Dead Sea Scrolls. And don't forget, on Monday I will be hosting Epic Voyages Radio here on Inception Radio Network. We'll be talking to Brian Forrester and Robert Schock about their recent trip and investigation on Easter Island. We're the first one breaking this news. Anyway, until next week, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Just Energy Radio. Be blessed.